Hi guys.
Hello.
This is Shruti. This is Tapasya.
Hi.
And in today's video, we are going to talk about the different people who are involved in birth. So,
Yeah, in the
because there are a lot of
childbearing.
terms that
Yes.
people are not aware of. They're like,
Right.
who is a doula? Who is a midwife? Who is a lactation counselor? So, we are going to just clarify that a bit in this video. So, do you want to start?
Yes. Yeah, that is the general misconception. People go to a doula and they ask you, "Do you do home births?" And she'll say, "No, I don't." Actually,
Can you check my cervix?
yeah, can you check my cervix? Some doulas will, some doulas won't. It depends on what kind of training and what kind of mindset you have. Then there is always a question that how do I find a natural birth friendly doctor? What is a natural birth friendly doctor itself? Because that is a question. Sometimes people don't know that doctors are trained surgeons. Most of the OBGYNs are trained surgeons and not trained in how to naturally support a labor. So that is why we have this array of birth workers who are doulas, midwives, lactation counselors, childbirth educators. There are again some doulas who also provide supports like postpartum support, prenatal counseling, nutritional counseling. They will also do placenta encapsulation. They will sometimes teach you infant massage and so many stuff. Like we have an array of services. Obviously, it is not very popular and very neatly categorized in India because doula is not even considered a service, but it is a service that is coming up, and more pregnant families who are interested in natural birth and knowing how the process goes and initiating into like organic type of parenting. Organic in the sense what comes from within and what is supported from outside naturally. So we will just talk a little bit about what is a doula. So Shruti, you are a doula.
Yeah.
So would you like to explain?
So, in a very layman term, doula is just a helper woman. That's it. So, she is a woman who knows a little bit about birth, has some experience around birth area, and she knows how to support the mother. So, there is no a fixed role for a doula. So, a doula can be somebody who massages the mom when she asks for it. She can be somebody who is a babysitter for the kids when the mom is in labor. She can be somebody who cooks something for the mom during labor or after labor in postpartum period. So her roles are varied. The general thing is that she is a support. She is always there for the mom when she needs it during labor or postpartum, depending on what type of doula she is and what services she is offering. So I think that is where people try to confuse doula with a natural birth doctor who should be there the whole time during labor. That does not happen.
Yeah.
A doctor's work is to just come maybe a few times in labor and check the progress, how things are going, how is the mom, is the baby okay, and then to suggest if something needs to be done. The doctor is not going to be there 24/7, nor the midwife is going to be there 24/7. The one who is there 24/7 is the doula. So that is what I think they need to understand. They cannot give this role to other people and say that okay, the doctor also needs to do this, the doctor also needs to tell me what I need to do or massage me, or that is not going to happen, So that is why it is important that if you need a support like that, then go hire a doula for yourself so that you can get that support. That support you will not get anywhere else. You cannot expect the hospital nurse or the hospital doctor or anybody over there to come and give you that support, right? That is one. Another way to do this is to take the childbirth education classes together with your partner, and your partner can be the doula for you if you share that comfort with him, or it can be your mom or your mother-in-law or any other person who is there with you in their labor. That person automatically becomes your doula per se. And I think you can talk more about a midwife and
Yes,
what is the
of
role
course.
of a midwife,
Yes.
and in the Indian context, where do midwives come in, like?
Yes. So to extend a little bit about doulas, the thing is doulas can be online, like they can be on call for you. They can guide you through the process. Sometimes it's not even necessary that doula should be present, because I've been at some labors virtually where the mom and dad just knew what is to be done, but they just needed somebody to tell them everything is going fine. So in a sense, doula can be your primary caregiver, in the sense that whenever you have a question, you rush to her and you ask her, is this normal? Because in pregnancy, the most important thing a pregnant mom needs is nurturing. And doula provides that, nurturing, mental, emotional, whatever the mom can share it with her, and then both of them can find a solution for the mom. So the extension of doula would be a midwife, logically. But because in communities, traditionally, women who had given birth, they used to help other women to give birth. So they were doulas in the sense. And some of them who were really more interested in birth, they took training from the traditional midwives and they became midwives. In the sense, they started presenting themselves at births, and they had solutions because they had been to many births. They would offer solutions. So if we talk in the Indian context, we have always had rural dais. Most of our parents and grandparents were born at home with dais, and dais do exist even today. There is a very good documentary made by Janet Chawla. It's on YouTube. It's called Born at Home. It talks about dais in Rajasthan, and in so many states, even today in rural areas, there is a wise woman of the community where people go to for counseling, for anything, and she is invited to births where women just don't go to the hospital, or they don't have an easy access to the hospital. What has been distorted is the birth has become more commercial and more institutionalized in urban areas, and because the government policy for last 50 years has been that birth has to be institutionalized, because there was they thought the birth is safer in the hospitals. But if you think about it, when women give birth at hospital, the mortality and morbidity was low. It went up because certain reasons, those were needed to be corrected socially and politically. Things like malnutrition, things like domestic violence, things like lack of support to the mom. Those were the reasons of infant and hygiene, for example.
That was
those were the reasons of the mortality. And instead of working on those reasons, what we did is make everybody go to the hospital and give birth, while as the hospital staff and doctors are not trained, or not even they don't even exist in that quantity to support all the normal healthy women who go to the hospital to give birth. So that is where the traditional midwives were there. Nowadays what we have is a professional midwife, a modern midwife, who is trained in her anatomy, physiology, her clinical things, non-clinical things, how to support birth. There are types of midwives where midwives are licensed. In India, only we have CNMs, which are certified nurse midwives, where you have to become a nurse first. Midwifery is a part of that curriculum, a small part, I would say. All the nurse goes through is mostly the clinical stuff, how to again medically manage the birth when the doctor is not there, or before coming, like preparing a woman so that doctor comes, his or her job is easy, and then again nurses take care of the rest. So that is the model where midwifery exists in India. But the thing is, these nurse midwives, they cannot practice legally or independently as per se and do home births. They are obligated to work in the hospitals, and in Indian hospital system, the hierarchy is such that it's very difficult for doctors to accept that this woman is better qualified to
forget the hierarchy between doctors and nurses. There is also a hierarchy among the doctors.
Yes,
among the doctors. So a junior doctor, let's say there is a patient or a mother who is coming in for a senior doctor, and the junior doctor is on call, she will not deliver the baby.
Yes.
She will wait till the senior doctor comes, and to the extent that they'll tell the mother don't push, or they will just put her in an uncomfortable position and let her not birth. So that it is like that protocol oriented mindset is so much that the care cannot be individualized at all.
and that is where midwives, basic role of midwife is individualizing the care. Because the basic difference between an appointment with an OB and midwife will be, with OB you will spend hardly 10 minutes, you will show your reports, he or she will see what is there in the reports, and she will tell you either everything was normal or she will prescribe something, some pharmaceutical. Whereas the midwife, when you go to a midwife, which unfortunately modern midwives do not exist in the quantity that we need in India, but in other countries, for example, when you go to a midwife, she will spend an hour and a half with you. She will ask you what you are eating, what your mental health status is, what is going on at your house, is something bothering you emotionally, mentally, are you connected with your body, and she will help you connect yourself with your body, with through maybe nutritional counseling, through maybe her ways might be different. I like giving guided meditations, I like doing yoga with my clients, I like go and cook with them, and maybe have a look at what they are eating exactly. Or maybe I would talk to a mother-in-law who is who is bothering us, whatever. So a midwife's role can be very holistic. The purpose is to nurture a woman. So legally speaking, in India, we don't have a dedicated midwifery courses. There is one run by Telangana government. They are coming up with like lots of efforts from the birth center in that region to push for midwifery. But the basic approach is train the traditional dais into a medical model and make them kind of mini nurses, and introduce clinical things into a home birth setting, and encourage people to switch from home birth to institutional birth. The way we look at midwifery developing in India is have midwifery colleges, have midwifery led obstetric units where the doctor is there only for emergencies, which ideally it should be, and the midwives are there to support a woman through the natural course of labor by making her comfortable, by avoiding the interventions that she's does not need. And some midwives also work in childbirth education so as to prepare the families for what comes with a natural childbirth, what kind of support partners can provide, what kind of environment family can create for that mom to nurture her so that the birth goes smooth. And that kind of midwifery model we need to develop. One of the solutions, some birth centers in India have found that import midwives from outside, and they are working under an umbrella of OB who is there to back up. It is one of the solutions, but again it's not sustainable until and unless Indian women, we who feel for moms, we come up as becoming midwives. And sometimes if you don't have the institutions that give you a formal education in midwifery, there exist so many online courses which give you an orientation into what midwifery is. Some people have opted to go outside India and get a midwifery education, but again when they come back, they are also in this legal hassle that they cannot open a birth center on their own. They need a backup of OB. Maybe I would say in the present situation that is acceptable. We can accept it, and we can find natural birth friendly doctors who are really into it, and to integrate both types of cares.
So actually, I think this natural birth friendly doctor is a very oxymoronic term, because as doctors we are trained to look for problems and we are trained to correct the problem. So there has to be a paradigm shift in the mindset of a doctor to understand what is physiological birth, because we are never taught. Our physiological birth, what we learn is very basic and very small. We don't work so much, like we don't work on how the position affects the labor and how to change the position. And these are some gems that I learned when I was talking with midwives, and when they tell me their experiences, that's how I learned it. So I think a definition of a natural birth friendly doctor would be that somebody who is very keen on, understands the importance of a normal delivery first of all. Secondly, is open to a dialogue with you. So whatever you have learnt in your classes, you go to them, you present it to them, you present your birth plan, you tell them this is what I want, this is what I need, and they should be open to accepting those choices, and they should be open to respecting those choices. If a doctor does that, I think in today's day and age, that itself is a big thing.
Right.
And if they genuinely do it, and they genuinely say, okay, I don't do this in my practice, but because you are confident and you know what you are doing, I will let you do this. This has happened to a couple of my clients in a very small hospital. And all these big corporate hospitals, if you go, you will definitely get sucked into their system. But if you go to an independent hospital who is like a tiny maternity center or something like that, there's just one doctor over there who is running it, and if the doctor is decent enough, you can go and have this conversation with the doctor, and mostly they might say yes. So, so there, the confidence of the mom is very important, because they trust you to make the decision, and they will say, okay, you know what you're doing, then you do whatever you are doing, we will not interfere. But if you start doubting yourself as a mom, then then they'll come in with their interventions. Then you cannot do anything. So this is where the holistic circle includes the midwife, the doula, the childbirth educators, who physiologically prepare you and guide you as to follow your intuition. And there comes in a doctor who also has a medical backup, which you might need sometimes, and you have the option of using it if it is required. So you need to understand where one thing's boundary ends and other thing begins, so that needs to be understood.
Yes.
I think clearly.
Well, midwives will have their own boundaries. Some licensed midwives, if you talk about USA or Europe, licensed midwives are not supposed to do home births with breech, with twins. But again, there are independent midwives who are not afraid of doing it, or who have done it traditionally. Like in Mexico, midwives do all kinds of births. I've been to, I've met some Argentine independent midwives who do not have license, who do not have any clinical training, but they have been to births with their moms, their grandmoms, and traditional birth attendants of the village, and they are not afraid of, for example, meconium or 3-4 rounds around of the cord around the neck.
They know how to manage. They know the tricks and hand things of doing it.
So basically, a true midwife operates on the principle that 99% of the times birth works, birth finds its way, and that is what gives me the safety to attend a birth, claiming that I'm a traditional birth attendant. I'm not a medical doctor, or I'm not a midwife who is practicing without a medical license, because I do not go out of my scope. For example, a doctor can give you IVs, can give you oxytocin, synthetic oxytocin, if she feels that your labor is stalling. As a traditional birth attendant, mostly I will work with your positions, your maybe a mental block, maybe just changing the intervention, changing your environment, getting your partner with you, or natural remedies, maybe homeopathy at most. And that are my tools. So we have to understand that everybody in the realm of birth will work with whatever tools they have. So even if you come to lactation counselors, they will work with the tools they have, like the positioning of the baby, like looking at the nutrition of the mom, like looking at the stress environment of the mom. So what happens is, but we all depend on each other, because if the birth has been traumatic, or a traumatic C-section that was not required or not wanted by the mom, something like that, it obviously causes issues in lactation. Yes. So for lactation counselor to have a good ground to work on, we need to work on birth. And how we work on the birth. Yes. So midwives can be supporters. If we don't have enough midwives, then we need to create more doulas who will support a person through her choices in the natural birth in hospitals. For people to hire doulas, they need to have the education, basic education. So we need childbirth educators. So all of us are a
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. And we have dedicated roles that we play
Exactly.
in the spectrum of birth and
Exactly.
postpartum.
So to make birth better, birth is always been better. To make that experience better for a mom, so that she's not suddenly thrown into the trauma, because birth trauma is very difficult to heal, and most of the personality problems or whatever, even physical problems like prolapses, like mental emotional problems
Maybe
of
we should
women.
do a video on birth
Yes,
traumas
we
as
should.
well. Yeah, that we'll maybe do
So
that.
to to save, maybe we are not saviors obviously, but to save some traumas from a woman's reproductive life and to make it better, we all work together. So that is why we thought that we would just explain a little bit what everybody does.
Yeah.
And again, we have to go back to the square one, which is the mom.
We are all here to support the mom.
Right.
That is what
Right.
it is. Yeah.
Right.